Man buys an old broken-down log cabin for $100 and does a beautiful renovation. Most people think about what their dream house would be like if they had unlimited money and funds to build an incredible house. Many people want a mansion, maybe a penthouse in the city or a beautiful place right on the ocean. Others have lesser dreams of grandeur and feel more comfortable with a simple and less extravagant dream home, such as a small cozy log cabin in the middle of the woods. That brings us to today's story, featuring Richard Eichen, age 65, referring to himself as a hillbilly. But Richard probably isn't what you think when you hear that term. Richard was married, had kids, but on top of that had not one but 2 PhDs. He was an avid writer and author, multiple published books, a mathematician, sang opera, and on top of all that, was good with his hands and was a very skilled carpenter. With all these amazing accolades, Richard did feel like there was one part of his life that contained a huge pit, or had a void. Ever since he was a kid, Richard dreamt about having an old cabin in the woods, away from the hustle and bustle of life in a city or even a small town. Just the thought of peaceful, quiet, and relaxing nature brought warmth and solace to his soul. An old friend of his had one day mentioned to Richard that he had a really run-down and dilapidated cabin in the middle of nowhere and was trying to get rid of it. Finally, as if a genie granted him his final wish, his dream of a cozy cabin in the woods was now coming to fruition. His friend was so ready to wipe his hands clean of the old broken-down cabin that he offered to him for free. Richard insisted that he couldn't possibly take it for free, reached into his pocket, pulled $100 out, and asked him if $100 seemed reasonable, and his friend quickly took his offer. For a measly $100, Richard was the proud new owner of a broken-down, old, dilapidated, dirty, and pretty nasty cabin in the middle of nowhere. The cabin wasn't only old, it was actually pretty dangerous at the time of purchase. The roof caved in, the floors were destroyed, and the walls were crumbling. This didn't bother Richard in the least. It was going to be his next big project, and he knew when he was finished with renovating and refining this old gem, it would be worth a hell of a lot more than $100. Many of his friends and family advised him to just knock the cabin down and build a fresh one from scratch. It would probably be cheaper this way and he'd run into way less problems. Richard listened to their advice and heeded their warnings, but deep down in his gut he knew that if he put his whole heart into this project with his vast knowledge of carpentry and building, he could transform this dump into the most magical cabin right out of a fairy tale. Remember, Richard was a brilliant mathematician and carpenter, so he was able to come up with a formula and blueprint using math that only he could understand to make sure this project would be a great success. Richard knew this would take a massive amount of time and energy, but nothing would stop this man on a mission to renovate his old cabin into his dream home.